So we're still looking at the spreadsheet that you developed in Module 2. We're looking at the Process Analysis tab. And in here you'll see the evaluation that we gave on the impact of each process against each strategic objective. We're now going to move to the final tab in that spreadsheet, the one that is titled Process-OD for Organization Design. Now, I've split the screen so we can see it more easily, but what we have here is again the same list of strategic objectives, the same processes, and in fact we've brought forward the same score from the previous sheet. What I've done though is inserted additional columns that let us evaluate the impact, the failure point, the control point, and the net score for each of those processes. So what we're going to go do, I'm just going to scroll down a bit here. There's instructions down the bottom that explain what's going on. So these are the strategic objectives which are taken from the Process Analysis tab. This is the importance, also taken from the Strategic Analysis, Process Analysis tab that we created before. This is the Process Performance, which again you created on the Process Analysis tab. The next column is called Impact. For impact, what we're going to ask ourselves and that team that's in the room, what is the impact of this process on this strategic objective? So if this process is critical to the success of this strategic objective, we'd give it a 5. So if we take a look at air operations impact on on-time flights, it's a 5. It has a significant impact. If air operations process failed, our flights would no longer be on time. So it's a 5. Then the next column is called failure. Now what failure is looking at is the severity of the failures, which could just be quality problems, errors on paperwork and that kind of thing, which are currently occurring in this process as it impacts that specific strategic objective. In other words, you may be having some quality issues that don't affect the strategic objective. We would give it a low score. But if the process failures are impacting this particular strategic objective, then we give it a higher score. In this case, 5 critical failures are occurring. So we'll give it a 5 just to make the score interesting. And then finally, control. This talks about what is the level of control you have in that process around that performance. And control is kind of a combination of, do you own those functions which are involved, and secondly, do you have authority to change those functions in order to better achieve the objective? So in some cases, the functions may be in your area, but you don't have the authority to change them. That's given by some other department. Or you have the authority to change them, but you don't actually own the functions. In this particular example, we'll give it a 5. And what that does is it calculates for us a score that in this case is just the impact times the failure point times the control. So it earns 125 control points, whatever you might want to call it. Let's take a look at, for example, reduced turnaround time. We're going to give it a score of 3 on impact, 4 on failure, and 1 for control. That gives them a score of 12. And finally, focus on redesign. We're going to give them a 3 for its impact, a 2, not many failures, and 1, no control. And presto, through the magic of technology, we've now scored all of the processes against these strategic objectives. So again, we've gone into each process like customer service and given a score for impact, failure, and control, and it's given us the simple solution. Now what should happen is, as we take a look horizontally for each of these strategic objectives, we should figure out for this team or this matrix chunk of the organization, which area has the highest score, and we propose that that group should be the leader within the team. So in this case, with increased profitability, the highest score that we can see on the screen is a 40. Now if we scroll off to the right to take a look at the other processes, we'll see a 27, another 27, a 20, and a 1. So it looks like, in fact, the process that should be leading this is probably customer service. But if we scroll right off to the right of the spreadsheet attempts to find that answer for you. So if we take a look over here after the last process, what the spreadsheet has done is taken a look at, first off, the number of processes which have that high score. Sometimes you might have a tie. In this case, there's only one process, And the highest scoring process is, in this case, customer service for supporting the increased profitability team. Customer service, again, leading the more passengers team. Ground operations leading the fewer planes team. Ticket sales leading the low ticket price team. Air operations doing the on-flight team, and so forth. So the idea is this spreadsheet allows us to begin getting at least a conversation going about which areas of the organization should be supporting and leading teams around each of those strategic initiatives. Now, it will also take a look down. So within air operations, which strategic objective seems to be the dominant one. So in this case, with a score of 125, it looks like if we were to run the air operations process, we need to make particularly sure that we satisfy the needs of on-time flights. It has the highest points. On-time flights is noted down here with the first strategic objective. For customer service, the highest one appears to be more passengers, and again, that's noted down here. And again, the way to interpret that data is that because of the highest score, if I were running this process, ground operations, I'd want to make sure that we focus on supporting the reduced turnaround time needs. Now, if I scroll off to the right a bit here, what you'll see is we actually have one process where we have two strategic objectives which both got a high score. So in this case, both low ticket price and focus on redesign got 40 points. So down here, we note that there are two processes that had the top score, the first of which is low ticket price. And again, all we want to do is make sure that when we are running the process of ticket sales, that we understand that low ticket price and focus on redesign are important things for us to focus on for these performance reasons.